There was a guy that was on the radio. He was a very famous ventriloquist named Edgar Bergen. And Edgar Bergen had this puppet named Charlie McCarthy. And they were on the radio. It was a man and a puppet on the radio. And it was the most popular show on the radio in the early 30s. Because his character was so charming that it didn't even matter that you couldn't see him puppeteer the puppet. And I feel like that's kind of the thing with Charlie Brown. These, in terms of the artwork, maybe it's not the best artwork that's ever been produced for comic strips or animation, but the characters are so great and so detailed and so well thought out. So we're going to go through the history of Peanuts. We'll talk about some of the different specials. The TV specials have an arc where they start out up here. They kind of went like this, and then they get really weird. So we'll get. I remember somebody once joked about. They were like, "Oh, hey, why not? It's Arbor Day, Charlie Brown." And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a real one. They used to crank these out, and they were always trying to hit the lightning in a bottle or whatever you call it again, because like that Christmas one is so great, and the Great Pumpkin is so great. And then stuff like Flash Beagle is not so great, and so, you're in the Super Bowl, Charlie Brown isn't really, you're not seeing that played every year. So here's a look. Overall, a lot of different stuff about Peanuts. You can see there the VHS cassette of the Great Pumpkin. You can see up in the Macy's parade every year. They've had multiple different balloons. That's actually Charles Schulz there with his little figurines of them. And then there's one of the many theme park locations with costumed characters. We'll talk a little bit about them. And the most recent movie, which I guess is going on, about a decade ago now. Everything starts with Charles Schulz. He's born 1922 in Minneapolis. These are pictures of him at various stages of his life. Really liked to draw, really liked artwork. He was nicknamed Sparky after a cartoon character, which was very famous at the time. Barney Google had this horse named Sparkplug, and his family nicknamed him Sparky. And then, if that wasn't enough, they got a dog, and they had a dog that would eat tacks, pins, screws, and razor blades. And so Charles Schulz, I don't know how this dog could stomach such a thing, but Charles Schulz, when he was a little boy, told about his family dog, which was named Spike, which will come back a little later. And you can see drawn by Sparky, because that was Charles Schulz's nickname. And he drew this picture of his dog, said that it ate razor blades. I don't know that this was true or not, but he sent it into Ripley's Believe It or Not. So his first published cartoon was in a Ripley's Believe It or Not, which is pretty neat. And you can see it's credited C.F. Schulz, which would be his dad, and then drawn by Sparky. So that appeared in 1937, his very first piece of art that appeared in a newspaper. This is the original letter. They've actually found the letter that was used. So this is the letter he wrote, or I guess his parents wrote, and they had the sketch on there. And that's a picture of him with Sparky, with Spike the dog. So Sparky, which is Charles Schulz, with his dog Spike. It says here that the dog would eat handkerchiefs, a highlight ball, stockings, pins, screws, and it specifically says that the dog would digest them, which means that he would break them down and they wouldn't come out whole, which I don't believe at all. So at some point in this story, somebody's not telling the truth. But hey, Ripley's Believe It or Not felt it was worth publishing, and so that was his first thing. He did what they call lettering for this Roman Catholic comic magazine called Timeless Topics. And he'd get $1.50 an hour, and he'd do all the lettering for it. And then he came up with his very first strip, his very first characters. It was called Little Folks. It premiered in 1947, and it ran in the hometown paper, the St. Paul Pioneer, for a couple of years, 2-3 years. And you can see little sketches here. It says, just hang your coat anywhere, make yourself at home. And then down here, just try to be patient. Wieners don't roast in a second. You can see definitely, you can see the characters. This is what became Peanuts. And so little folks had their first strip, and there he is, Charlie Brown. Again, this is called Little Folks. We'll get to the name Peanuts. That didn't come until a little later, but you can see, well, here comes old Charlie Brown. Good old Charlie Brown, yes, sir. Good old Charlie Brown, how I hate him. Here's another one. Little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. And then she smacks him in the eye. He says that's what girls are made of. This strip was October 3rd, 1950. This strip was not a hit at first as Little Folks, but slowly built up an audience, and by 1958 they were making plastic dolls of the Little Folks characters, but then it was picked up by United Features Syndicate. And there was a similar named comic strip. It was actually called Little Folks. This one was Lil Folks. And so since there was a similar one, Little Folks, which was done by a famous cartoonist that was published all around or famous comic stripist, which was published around the country. And Lil Abner was another big thing. They were like, look, Lil Folks is too similar to the names of these other popular ones. So they said, we're going to come up with a new name. So the people from the United Features Syndicate sat in a room, and they came up with the name Peanuts. And Charles Schulz said, I hate it. And he hated it from the day that they gave him that name. And he made a lot of money with it, but he never liked it. He said, it doesn't make sense. He said, there's no reason that these characters are called Peanuts. He always wanted it to be called Good Old Charlie Brown, which they didn't like. So here he is. Here he is sitting at his drawing table. He said he doesn't like the word peanuts. He said it's not a nice word. As a title, he said it was meaningless, had no dignity. He said he wanted something that had class, and he thought that the syndicate didn't care. You know, he said it was insulting. They walked in, bought his strip, paid a lot of money for it, and had him draw it, but they gave him a name he didn't like. So his whole life's work, creating Peanuts, he never went to his grave not liking the name Peanuts. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
I see you got a coffee, so you're doing all right. In early 1959, the very first TV appearance, the very first animated appearance of the Peanuts characters. They were sponsored by the Ford Motor Company. These were ads that were animated and put on television on a show called the Tennessee Ernie Ford Show. And here, this is a look at the very first time they were ever on television. This is what they looked like.
And now, from the popular comic strip Peanuts, here are Charlie Brown and his friend.
Well, thank you, Charlie Brown. Thank you, Charlie Brown.
Smoke up, kids.
What's the occasion? Has Charlie Brown had another baby sister? No. Ford has really tiny twins. So he's passing out chocolate cigars to everyone.
Okay.
Everyone? Yes, everyone.
That's Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Because it's just like they said. We've got something big to celebrate. And here it is. Ford's Economy Twins for 1960. The economy choice of a lifetime. Oh, I'll bet you've never seen a prettier twosome than this. There's the new size Ford, the Falcon. And next to it, the large economy size Ford, the Fairlane 500.
Ford Fairlane. That's great. That was a time of good cars and great mustaches. This was animated by Bill Melendez. He did the Peanuts animation for a very long time. Here is the advertisement, December 9th, 1965. This is in the TV guide, and this was 15 years after he started Peanuts. We had the first Peanuts television special, and it was the Charlie Brown Christmas. Happiness is watching a Charlie Brown Christmas. I assume you guys have probably all seen it at some point, right? I think it might be the high point of everything Peanuts, and it was the very first one they put out. So that came out December 1965. June of 66, Charlie Brown's All-Stars. not as fondly remembered, but a pretty good short. The next one is The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So this was the following year. So we had Christmas. The next October, we're looking for The Great Pumpkin. You're in Love, Charlie Brown. This ran 1967. This one, it's summer vacation, and Charlie's trying to get the attention of the little redhead girl. Charlie Brown was always into this little redhead girl. There he is picking all the flowers, and I love that the dog has a stand set up where he can sell flowers to his owner. He's Your Dog, Charlie Brown was the next one. Weirdly, this was aired on Valentine's Day, yet it was not a Valentine's Day special. Charlie Brown was tired of Snoopy, and so he takes him back to the Daisy Hill Puppy Farm and asks them if they would teach him manners, and then he'll bring him back home. So this is another one, another great special. You can see the picture actually is not from the special, but from the book and record that they would put out about these. Now, for those of you that are younger in the audience, prior to streaming, prior to Blu-ray, prior to DVD, prior to VHS, prior to Betamax, we had book and records. And what you would get is you'd go to the store, you'd get this book and record, and they'd take some of them would be original stories, but most of them would be based on a movie or a TV show. And they'd take the story, they'd take a bunch of frames of it, they'd put them in a book, they'd put all the words, and then you put a record on which would have sounds from the show, and you would know it was time to turn the page when you heard the chime ring like this, and it'd go, and then you'd flip your page. So you have to pay attention. And the idea was that you would hear the words read, and as a kid you'd read along, and so words you didn't understand, you'd be like, oh, that's how that's spelled. But there you go. That aired in 1968. Here's another one. 1969. The boys and girls all competed in games at summer camp. It was a short summer, Charlie Brown. And then we had a feature film, A Boy Named Charlie Brown. This came out in 1969. This was the last one that had Peter Robbins as the voice of Charlie Brown. Most of the kids at this point had grown out of it. They were kids. They hired little kids to do the voices, which was uncommon. At that time, you almost never saw anyone do that. What they would do is hire women to voice little children in everything. That was the way you would do it. So you'd get, there was a lot of female voice actors that would really do all of the famous voices. But this time they had these kids. And so as the kids, as your voice kind of changed, he was like, one day my voice didn't sound the same. And they were like, well, we got a new Charlie Brown.
Was that the one with the spelling bee?
Yes, that's the one that goes to New York for the spelling bee.
Always
Yes,
remember that song when I was spelling.
Yes, indeed. Play it again, Charlie Brown. This one, you can see the strip here, which says, I bet I know something you don't know. What's that? And then she sprays like a horn or something here, and it has all music notes that come out, and it says Beethoven now comes in spray cans. I don't even understand this joke at all. But this was a joke, and Play It Again, Charlie Brown. It appeared as a strip, but this was a TV special that aired on CBS in March of 1971. So, the next special that aired on television is absolutely a sign of the times. It is something that you probably would never see on television today. But man, Snoopy at the Ice Follies. They did multiple Ice Follies specials on TV. You'd have this costume Snoopy, and Ice Follies was a real big thing. They had all the characters from all the different properties would appear in different ice shows. And what you would do is you'd get a bunch of well-trained skaters. I remember they still do like Disney on Ice. I went to the Disney on Ice show, and if you buy the program and flip to the back, you get all the bios of everybody, and a lot of them, they're like finished second in the Olympics in 1998, and it's like you read these bios, you're like, wow, this is amazing. And it's like, yes, I went to Seoul, Korea, I competed in the Olympics, I got the gold medal, and now I put on the Woodstock hat and I go around the country. But hey, you know what? It's a job. It's a job doing what you love. So there were multiple TV specials with the Ice Follies. Snoopy at the Ice Follies, 1971. Snoopy's International Ice Follies, where they took the Ice Follies on the road the next year. The year after that, Snoopy directed the Ice Follies, which is why you can see him here in the director's chair. And you can see this young lady. She's an ice skater. She's cuddling up to Snoopy because she wants to get her close up. She's like, man, Snoopy's directing the whole thing here. And then the last one they did, actually I think they may have done more, but the next one they did, 1978, Snoopy musical on ice. It's interesting, like Ice Follies was where the first mascot costumes really came to be a thing for everything, not just for Snoopy. When Disneyland opened in 1955, they didn't have costume characters designed for the park, and what they did was they brought the ones from the Ice Capades, and they brought them to the park. They had to put tape on the bottom of their shoes once they got the blades out of them, and they looked really weird. If you ever see the pictures of Disneyland opening day, the characters, the faces weren't right and everything kind of looked off. But the idea was you weren't seeing it. You weren't going up to them and hugging them. You were seeing them, from far enough away that, that looks enough like Mickey Mouse. All right, the next one, this one's a great one. Theatrical film, 1972, Snoopy Come Home. Anybody ever see this one? Does this sound familiar? This was the on-screen debut of Woodstock. And he had appeared in the comic strip just a little bit before this. Snoopy, they were out on the road. Snoopy and Woodstock needed to come home. They stopped at a bunch of different places along the way, including he stopped to drink root beer at a bar, and he get the big foamy root beer. All right, let's go to the next one. You're Not Elected, Charlie Brown. The Election Day special that Peanuts put out. Charlie Brown was not elected, but if you look, he's not even running. Linus was running. But I guess they thought, Linus, you're not elected, people wouldn't have tuned in. They would be like, I don't know, is that Linus the Lionhearted? Who is that? We don't know what that is. Russell Anderson, man. Russell Anderson took that election. Looks close, though. It was doing well. 1972. So another thing came around 1972 that changed the nation. And this was Pong. Pong was the first, really, there was one before it, but Pong was the first popular video game, and Snoopy was no stranger to Pong. They had a Snoopy Pong machine that was, because Pong, the people from Atari, it was Nolan Bushnell created it, and it wasn't really a copyrightable thing at the time. They weren't, so everybody made a Pong clone, and they'd call it different things. Snoopy went right out and just called it Snoopy Pong. So you could play Snoopy Pong if you went to the right place. I've never seen one of these, but I'd love to try it out. No Time for Love, Charlie Brown. This was March of 1973. And then the next one we're getting to was a big hit, one that everybody remembers. No, not It's a Mystery, Charlie Brown. The Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. This was November 1973. You can see them all sitting around the table enjoying their buttered toast, jelly beans, their ice cream sundaes, the popcorn. This is fun, and a little pretzel sticks. This is fun. I've done this as a Thanksgiving Eve thing, for where we got all that, and you can see why that's what kids would prepare. It's definitely a kid-friendly menu. You throw in some chicken tenders, this would be like the ultimate children's menu for Thanksgiving. This was November of 1973. So we're now talking quite a bit of years after the first special aired. Then it was a mystery Charlie Brown. Woodstock's nest has disappeared, and so Snoopy must don the old Sherlock Holmes cap and go find it. The next one after this is one you guys probably remember. Easter Beagle. It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown. And then we finally got our Valentine's Day special in 1975. Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown. And also You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown. That came out Halloween of 75. And so what they would do is they'd like to put out a new one around Christmas or Halloween if they could, so they could run the old one and the new one. And, it would be like, hey, your old favorite's on also this. And, also you can see this brand new one. It's Arbor Day, Charlie Brown. It did exist. I told you. March of 76. And look at Charlie Brown. He's like, why can't we come up with a better idea than Arbor Day? The Peanuts gang has planted an Arbor Day tree in the middle of the pitcher's mound. Will that mean another dark day for Charlie Brown's athletic career? I don't know how the league could justify that as being or will he have it made in the shade against Peppermint Patty's Sluggers. This was sponsored by, what is this here? Peter Pan Cadbury, I think, and McDonald's. Go to your neighborhood McDonald's. Nobody can do it like McDonald's can. I like this. So I don't know why they would plant the tree there. I haven't seen its Arbor Day Charlie Brown, but maybe I'll check it out sometime. All right, here's Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. This was the first feature-length Peanuts cartoon after the death of Vince Guaraldi, which we didn't talk about until this point, but you probably remember his music, the famous the Peanuts music. That guy had created it, and those specials really did benefit a lot from the music. The music was a huge part of it. This also was right around the time that Garfield started getting specials. So Peanuts wasn't alone in the world, of television specials. Garfield's probably the number 2 specials, which is pretty. I mean, Peanuts here, Garfield's. I love Garfield, but I think Garfield specials. Thanksgiving one's good, the Halloween one's good, but so they tried to do the same thing with Jim Davis. I don't think it succeeded to the same level. It's Your First Kiss, Charlie Brown, October of 1977, and then What a Nightmare, Charlie Brown of 1978. I want to ask if anybody ever had any Peanuts merchandise, because there is a very specific piece of merchandise I'm going to talk about that I bet somebody, if you ever had anything, you probably had this. Anybody ever own anything Peanuts? Like a plush or something, anything, right? All right, but did anybody ever own the Snoopy Snow Cone machine? I had one of these. The Snoopy Snow Cone machine was a thing for a long time. You'd put some ice cubes in there, and then you'd turn a crank, and they'd crush them up, and then you'd pour Kool-Aid. You could even see, like, they got the Kool-Aid right down. It's Kool-Aid. You'd mix up some Kool-Aid in water, so it was real heavy flavored Kool-Aid, and you'd put that on top of your shaved ice. And Snoopy Snow Cone machine. Actually, this part up here, if I remember correctly, had 2 purposes. One was his head you'd fill with the liquid, and so you'd turn him upside down to pour the liquid out of the top of his hat, but also you'd push the ice down with the bottom of him. There was like a bottom part, so you push down. And then over here there was a little shovel, and you take the little shovel to scoop all the ice out of there once it was all done. Oh no, here, look, this snowman you'd use with the hat. He'd pour and he's got Woodstock right on him. It's great, man. The Snoopy Snow Cone machine. I'm pretty sure you can still get these. I'm pretty sure there's still places that have these. 1979. This was a Hasbro release. The Snow Cone machine, and snow spelled S-N-O. Snow Cone machine. You're the Greatest, Charlie Brown. This is from 1979. Charlie Brown wanted to enter the Junior Olympics at school, and so he did. So that was the next special. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of these because these are rare. A lot of the stuff I just talked about, you can get it online. You can go stream it tonight. You can go on Netflix probably and find it. But I want to show you some of the clips, some of the stuff that you can't find, some of the stuff that even if you dig around, it'll be real tough to find. And here is one that I want to show you. This is from a series of educational films they did in the late 70s. These were produced on 16 millimeter film. These would be sent to classrooms. And here we go. We're going to take a look at this, and then I'll tell you all of the ones they made, but we'll take a look at a clip.
Thank you, sir. I'll work on it. Boy, I got an instruction book, a poster, and disclosing tablets. I'm gonna have the cleanest teeth in town.
The very famous toothbrushing episode
Hi,
of Charlie
sweetie.
Brown.
Let's get home. I've never practiced brushing my teeth properly. Come on. Boy, I'm gonna impress everybody with my white teeth. Hi, Landon. Hey, I got some great news here. My dentist just gave me these tablets and this book on how to brush my teeth. Would you like to try it out with me? Sure, go on in, Charlie Brown.
He must live in a boring town. I even thought Snoopy was going to be like, no, I'm not coming with
We
you.
should use the toothpaste your dentist recommends, but we can practice brushing without toothpaste. You begin by wetting your brush, but not just any brush. You should have a toothbrush with a flat brushing surface, with soft-rounded bristles, and a straight handle. Hey, Lucy's brush is just right, Snoopy. Okay, now let's brush. Concentrate on each and every tooth. No, don't brush like that. Place the brush alongside your teeth, so the bristles are angled up into the gums. Now scrub each tooth.
Snoopy's got human
with a
teeth.
short back and forth motion. Use enough pressure to feel the bristles against the gums. And make sure you brush each tooth carefully. Once you have brushed all your teeth on the outside, you have to brush the inside of each and every tooth too. Tilt the brush to clean your teeth from the inside. Use up and down strokes.
Looks like a horse.
Finish
It's like
by brushing back
disturbing.
and forth over chewing surfaces of your teeth. Cleaning your tongue with your brush will help your mouth feel fresher. Now rinse. Use lots of water. And rinse your brush too. Let's see how well you brushed. Here, chew this disclosing tablet. And look in the mirror. What do you see?
Ooh, harsh.
Good grief. Don't worry, you can brush away the red spots. The disclosing tablet colors the plaque that you missed.
It's a gripping tale of toothbrushing. So this was Toothbrushing. Very straightforward title. They went a little bit catchy on the next one. It was about flossing, and it's called It's Dental Philosophy, but it was Flossosophy. Charlie Brown didn't take off. And the next one, Charlie Brown clears the air. So, all right, there you go. Those were 1978, 1979. Then they went back to doing TV specials. She's a Good Skate, Charlie Brown, came out in 1980. Here's a feature film. This is the fourth feature film of the franchise. Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, and Don't Come Back. This is where they went to Europe. And Snoopy fought the Red Baron once again. We'll talk a little bit about the Red Baron in a bit. Life's a Circus, Charlie Brown. This aired in 1980, followed by It's Magic, Charlie Brown. And then we got the weirdest of all the Peanut specials, I believe. This was really hard to find. This was called Big Stuffed Dog. Came out in 1981. It starred Rossi Harris, who I believe was the little kid from Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, if you remember that Sid and Marty Krofft show. And Abe Vigoda was in this. And Snoopy's really, he's a stuffed animal in this. The whole thing is about a Snoopy stuffed animal. It's not talking or anything. But it's an entire special about the travels of this giant Snoopy stuffed animal. So I'm going to show you a little clip. Rossi Harris has Snoopy at the beginning, and then you'll see what happens that he loses him. Snoopy goes on quite an adventure before eventually coming back to him in the big stuffed animal.
You don't understand. I have a very good step aside just for a moment. Yes, ma'am, may I help you?
Oh, yes. I have 2 reservations for Stamper's Chapel.
You and your little boy.
No, my little boy and the stuffed dog.
You're kidding. You mean that dog is riding on the plane? Ma'am, could we ask you a big favor? This gentleman would like to take the same flight. Would you be willing to give up the seat reserved for the dog and send him
Ma'am, would you like this angry man to sit next to your unaccompanied minor?
baggage instead?
I suppose.
We could put him in a regular animal carrier like those over there.
Well,
Oh, please, ma'am. Look, I'm really a very nice person, and I can help look after your boy. And I really must catch this flight.
I really must catch this flight.
Well, you won't talk all the way, will you?
Not if you don't want me to. Look at it this way. Your dog will get to ride with all the other dogs. He'll make new friends.
Well, okay.
Great. Now if you just wait a moment, I'll have a credit written. And I'll give you a receipt and tell you to check with the airline.
Yeah, just throw it up there, Rossi. So he just throws it on the belt. He doesn't tag it or anything.
And here's your credit receipt.
Back when airports were like the Wild West, you could just walk on the conveyor belt if you wanted.
What do you do?
Well, it's okay. I put him through when you guys are talking.
He hasn't been tagged. Don't worry. I'll call the baggage department.
This goes on for like 45 minutes. This is The Big Stuff Dog, aired on NBC in February of 1981. Aired only once, was not a hit. Is a neat little story. I mean, it's kind of a cute afternoon type thing. They did put it on VHS, but it had a very limited release and went out of print. And it, at least last time I checked, which was a few months ago, it was impossible to find anywhere. I bought the VHS tape. I think I paid $80 for it, but I then ripped it and then put it right back on eBay and got my $80 back or something close. I probably put it back for like $75. I was like, sell it quick, get this thing moving. I don't need to. I never understand that. Like, I had a copy of, who is the guy? Somebody in this room should know. Samuel Jackson plays a guy with an eye patch in the Marvel movies. Nick Fury, thank you. They made a Nick Fury movie with David Hasselhoff. And it came out on DVD, and it was like you got it free when you bought Iron Man, I think. You got, like a free copy of it. And it was only like it was a Best Buy exclusive, and if you bought like the deluxe Iron Man, you got that with it. So I bought it, and I never watched it. I just put it on the shelf. And then one day, a friend of mine was over, and he was like, that's out of print, and I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I mean, it's worth like $100. And I was like, I handled it like before I would have tossed it away. I handled it like this. I walked it over and I was like, all right, I'm gonna entomb this in plastic and get it to somebody right away because there's no reason that this should be that much. And I did. Somebody bought it for $100. What? Why? Why would you want? What? It's not even a good movie. $100, man. There was another time I had a little. You remember those Game & Watch games? Yeah, they're like little Nintendo games. And I had one, and I would play it all the time, throw it on my desk. And then one day I was like, oh, let me see if it's worth anything on eBay. And it was worth like $200. And I was like, okay, now I'll just gently put it aside. I was, it wasn't worth $200 to me. If I went to a garage sale and it was 75 cents, I'd be like, would you take 50 cents? All right, here's the next batch. Someday You'll Find Her, Charlie Brown, came out in 1981. 1982 saw a Charlie Brown celebration. And is this Goodbye, Charlie Brown, from February 1983, where Linus is dying, I guess. He must say goodbye to Charlie Brown. No, I guess he probably moved to the other side of town. All right, here's a bunch of advertising that they did. Man, Peanuts likes to advertise for everything, like MetLife, just like I think the only pitchman I think that appears on more stuff than the Peanuts characters, it's got to be Fred Flintstone, who's like, the show hasn't been on the air in 50 years, but yet those Fruity Pebbles, man, he's just cranking out Fruity Pebbles stuff every day. I've probably seen more Fruity Pebbles commercials than Flintstones episodes. But here are some of the things you got. You got MetLife, you got Milk-Bone, you got Chex, Zingers, if you remember those, Weber's and Rich Bread, lots of different stuff. We're going to look at a commercial. There's some good stuff here.
First of all, Franklin, you have to lift that board before you can surf on it. How do you like to surf today? That's obvious. You should have had a good breakfast like I did. A Cheerios breakfast.
When you fill up with a nutritious breakfast like this one with tasty low-sugar Cheerios, those also help keep you on your toes.
Right. On the go. Just look.
Awesome. I love it. It's an adventure, Charlie Brown. This one, I actually really like, if you get a chance to pull this one up. It's a bunch of shorts, and there's my favorite moment in any Peanuts cartoon, just because it's so weird. It happens in the cartoon. It happened in the comic strip. So Charlie Brown is waiting to see the sun because the sun keeps looking like a baseball. All right, so every time he looks at the sun, because he's losing at the baseball game, he sees a baseball in the sky, which is a weird concept, but that's what he sees. So he goes out, it's getting light, sun's coming up, I can't look, I can't stand the suspense. What will I see, the sun or a baseball? What will I see? And he looks up, and Alfred E. Newman pops up out of the sky, and it says, "What me worry." This was the mascot for Mad Magazine. This is the punchline to the sketch. It's so weird. I don't get it, but I love it. It's actually odd. They drew Alfred E. Neuman incorrectly. Alfred E. Neuman always has one eye that is slightly, not even just slightly, that is lower than the other. Alfred E. Newman's a weird looking character. The history behind Alfred E. Neuman, by the way, any Mad Magazine fans here? A little bit? I was a big Mad Magazine fan. I mean, I was like, man, they're sticking it to everybody. This is great, you know. I got a bunch of the digital files, and I still go back and check those out. Man, Mad Magazine was just great. It was, because today you can, like, I was thinking about this recently. There was a new song came out from Taylor Swift, and like within a day, you could find like 50 parodies, full produced videos online that people made in their house with their cell phone, but using sophisticated special effects that you couldn't have done, like Weird Al couldn't have done them 20 years ago, even with a budget. And today people can do them for nothing. You know, people can, and so like the concept of being able to parody things is so much easier. It's so much easier to do now. You know, we could, if we wanted to make something, we could write it now, and scan it, and put it online immediately, and we could, you know, go viral and people could see it. But back then, only way you were going to get somebody making fun of everything was like Mad Magazine. And that just always felt good as a kid. You're like, yeah, there you go. You take that, Rocky 2. But there you go. So that was It's an Adventure, Charlie Brown. So it was 1983. And again, it's a bunch of shorts. One of them, you know, spoiler alert, the son turns into Alfred E. Neuman. But the rest of them, lots of little stories. And I think it's the perfect digestible size stories for Peanuts, because, you know, these are usually just 4 strips, you know, and so stretching them out to cartoon length doesn't always work. What have we learned, Charlie Brown, where Charlie and his friends visit the World War II memorials around the country. Really sounds exciting. The Charlie Brown and Snoopy show, this aired from 83 to 85. They had a newer version that they did on Apple TV more recently, so this has been around for a while. All right, I mentioned this one. This may be the worst of all the cartoons, which may be why it's one of my favorites. 1984's It's Flash Beagle, Charlie Brown. Let's take a look. There he is. To explain this for anybody that doesn't know the era, so Flashdance had come out around that time, which was a very, very popular movie, and in the movie, it was all about aerobic workout, and they would wear something called leg warmers. Well, I don't even understand the point of them, but it was like, it was socks that didn't go cover your feet. They just covered your like lower leg for some reason, and a lot of headbands. That makes sense, keeps the sweat out of your eyes, but lots of like sweatshirts with the collar ripped out and then the sleeves ripped off. So you'd wear a heavy sweatshirt, but you'd cut it up so you could sweat in it, but you could also get some air. And Snoopy here is dressed up in the style of that, and he's going to be doing some great dancing in Flash Beat. I want to point out, you can see adult characters, which you rarely see in Peanuts. You know, the teachers and everything are usually off screen going, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," and Charlie's like, "Oh, sure, teacher. Rah, rah, rah. Wow, that's disgusting. How dare you say that to me? Rah, rah. Hey, look, I'm calling the cops." But here you see some adult characters, and they look weird. It looks like Peppermint, like here, the woman here, it looks like Peppermint Patty somehow has like a woman's body, but still Peppermint Patty's head. But it's not her. It's it's a grown up, but. So I mentioned earlier Vince Guaraldi, who did the music for those early specials, and how he passed away, and that did make a change because this is the kind of music you got after he was gone. I will say, in the defense of Flash Beagle, I saw this first time when I was 10 years old, and I thought it was the most awesome thing in the world. So, but there you go. It's Flash Beagle, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown's Snoopy was getting married. He didn't. The wedding didn't work out, but he was getting married in Snoopy's Getting Married. There you go. Charlie Brown throwing an elaborate wedding for his dog. You're a good man, Charlie Brown. So this was a musical that was based on the series. The musical was created in 1967, and it went off Broadway the same year, went toward the West End of London. Like a year after that, did a whole U.S. tour in the 70s, and then went on Broadway 1971, and they did like an animated version of it as well, and that was in the 80s. Happy New Year, Charlie Brown. That's a good one to pull out. There's not enough Happy New Year specials in the world. I feel like Christmas, we're always watching the same ones because there's a lot of great ones. But I feel like for New Year's, you don't have a lot. So I think this is a good one. Happy New Year, Charlie Brown. Always good to grab. It's about the kids trying to stay up. You know, it's just the stuff you'd expect, but really good. Here's the next one. Snoopy the Musical, which is based on a different musical, not Your Good Man, Charlie Brown. So Snoopy had a couple musicals. This one was 1975, started in San Francisco, went off Broadway in the 80s, never went on Broadway, but did play on the West End of London. All right. The Girl in the Red Truck, Charlie Brown. I loved this. This came out in 1988, so it's just before Roger Rabbit, I believe. This was live action with animation. This was mostly about Snoopy's brother, Spike. So you probably remember Spike. He had a mustache, wore a hat, and you also probably remember that Charles Schulz's dog, who could eat razor blades and highlight balls, was named Spike back when Charles Schulz went by the nickname Sparky. And so this was a hybrid animation live action special, which I thought was really cool at the time. It still looks kind of neat. I'm going to show you a little clip from it.
You know what? I almost forgot. You remember George Stephen? He had that astronomy class. You like that behind
The guy who always carries his lunch to campus in a baggie.
Well, they changed a little bit since then. Forget about those bags. Anyway, we share some of the same plans now. And he came by the office this afternoon to give you a project he's working on, and told me
Just look at the animated character just hanging out in the room. This is a weird special because it's almost like they had a story that didn't involve cartoon characters, and they were like, you know what would be a good hook if we throw some cartoon characters? All right, I'm almost out of time, so I'm just going to show you a couple more real quick things. I think I am out of time, but I want to show you a couple quick things. You had Charles Schulz pass away, and when he did, he passed away in his sleep, February of 2000. He had just retired from doing the strip, and this I think is sad, of course, the man passed away, but the tribute to him I thought was so beautiful that I wanted to show you this to end everything off, which was all of the cartoon strips in that week's paper all went ahead and did tributes to him. You could see, like here, she's reading Peanuts. She says she already has her lifetime companion. Over here, Blondie, you could see he's working for Peanuts, and he said, well, Charles Schulz made it good working for Peanuts. Down here, Mother Goose and Grimm, you see, goes over to the doghouse and sees Snoopy on top. Garfield goes up on top of the house and sighs. So I thought this was just great. I thought it was great to see everybody do a tribute to him, and that was that. So there were some more specials, more shows, a lot more stuff, but I think that's kind of the stuff I think is most important to talk to you guys about. Any questions I might be able to answer? Oh, thank God, because I pretty much told you everything I knew about Charlie Brown. I'm glad you were here. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's called Pointless Nostalgia. A new video will be up today, which will be my video from yesterday here at the Convention Center. And if you come by my table, I have a booth out there. I'm selling books, but you get free stuff if you come to my table. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you can get a free sticker. I got really cool stickers. I got a variety to choose from. And then if you like a video, you can take a second sticker. And if you comment on a video, you can take 3 stickers. So you can come by my table, get 3 free stickers. I won't give you a hard sell on the books, and I'll just let you go. And if I'm not there, I leave the stickers out with the sign telling you how to do it. So totally no problem. I'm behind Barbara Dunkelman. I'm in between Dana Snyder, who is my best friend. We do Drunk on Disney together. And Andy Merrill is on the other side. And Barbara Dunkelman is behind me. So if you go in that area, I'm over there. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I also am doing FSCW wrestling. That man right there will be dressed up as Spider-Man and wrestling people tonight. So that's in the ring over there, and that's free. So you can come see that, and I'll be doing the talk over top of it.